Listen carefully, my people, to a story that will shake your heart. In the bustling city of Lagos lived a woman named Adana. She was not rich, not famous, but she had something many people search for their whole lives, a best friend named Chioma. These two women grew up together, shared secrets under moonlight, and promised to protect each other forever. Adana worked as a cleaner in a large company, sweeping floors while others sat in air-conditioned offices. Her hands were rough, her back often ached, but her spirit remained unbroken. Chioma, however, had married well. Her husband owned 3 filling stations and drove the latest cars. She lived in a mansion with tall gates and security guards. But despite the difference in their lives, Chioma never forgot her childhood friend. Every month, she sent Adana money. Every holiday, she invited her to family gatherings. Adana's heart swelled with gratitude. She would tell anyone who listened, "Chioma is my sister, my angel." Little did she know that loyalty, when tested by fire, can burn in unexpected ways. One rainy afternoon, Adana received a phone call that changed everything. It was Chioma, and her voice trembled like leaves in a storm. "Adana, please come to my house immediately. I need you." Adana dropped her broom, grabbed her wrapper, and rushed through the flooded streets. When she arrived at Chioma's mansion, dripping wet and breathless, she found her friend sitting on the bedroom floor, crying. Her eyes were swollen, her makeup smeared like war paint. "What happened?" Adana whispered, kneeling beside her. Chioma looked up, her lips quivering. "My husband is cheating on me." The words hung in the air like smoke. Adana's heart broke for her friend. She held Chioma's trembling hands and said softly, "Tell me everything." Through sobs, Chioma explained how she had found messages on her husband's phone, sweet words sent to another woman, promises of love, plans to meet secretly. Adana listened, her chest tightening with anger. How could any man betray such a wonderful woman? She made a promise right there on that floor. "I will help you, my sister. We will find out who this woman is." For the next 2 weeks, Adana became a detective. She followed Chioma's husband, Mr. Emeka, everywhere. She watched him leave the office, followed his car through traffic, and noted every stop he made. She felt like a warrior fighting for her friend's happiness. One evening, she saw him park outside a small hotel in Ikeja. Her heart pounded as she watched him walk inside. Minutes later, a woman joined him. She was tall, light-skinned, and wore expensive perfume that Adana could smell even from across the street. They embraced like lovers in a movie. Adana's hands shook as she took pictures with her old phone. The images were blurry but clear enough. That night, she showed Chioma the evidence. Her friend stared at the photos, her face hardening like stone. "Who is she?" Chioma whispered. Adana shook her head. "I don't know yet, but I will find out." Chioma grabbed Adana's hand tightly. "Thank you. You are the only one I can trust." Those words filled Adana with pride. She felt needed, important, like a hero in her friend's story. But pride, my people, can be a dangerous companion. Adana continued her investigation with the focus of a hawk hunting prey. She asked questions at the hotel, slipped money to the security guard, and finally learned the woman's name, Ngozi. She worked as a banker in Victoria Island and drove a red car. Armed with this information, Adana reported back to Chioma. Her friend's eyes burned with cold fury. "I want to confront her," Chioma said. "I want to see her face when I tell her to leave my husband alone." Adana hesitated. Something inside her whispered a warning, but she pushed it aside. I will arrange it, she promised. Days later, Adana sent Ngozi a message, pretending to be a customer interested in opening an account. They agreed to meet at a restaurant. When Ngozi arrived, Chioma was waiting. The confrontation was ugly. Chioma screamed, threw water in Ngozi's face, and called her terrible names. Ngozi, shocked and humiliated, ran out crying. Adana stood nearby, watching. She expected to feel victorious, but instead, a strange unease settled in her stomach. That night, Mr. Emeka came home furious. He had heard about the incident. He shouted at Chioma, calling her crazy and embarrassing. Then he asked the question that made Adana's blood run cold, who told you where to find her? Chioma, without hesitation, pointed at Adana. She did. She followed you. She found everything. Mr. Emeka's eyes turned to Adana, and in them, she saw something she had never seen before: hatred. You, he said slowly. You have been spying on me. Adana opened her mouth to defend herself, but no words came. She looked at Chioma, expecting support, expecting her friend to explain that they were only protecting the marriage. But Chioma remained silent, her face unreadable. Mr. Emeka stepped closer to Adana, his voice low and dangerous. You have destroyed my peace. You have embarrassed my name. Get out of my house and never come back. Adana felt the ground shift beneath her feet. But Chioma asked me to. She stammered. Chioma finally spoke, her voice cold as ice. I asked you to find out, not to humiliate us publicly. You went too far, Adana. The betrayal hit Adana like a thunderbolt. She stared at her friend, the woman she had loved like a sister, and saw a stranger. With tears streaming down her face, Adana walked out of the mansion. The gates closed behind her with a loud clang, like the door of a prison. She stood in the dark street, alone and confused. How had loyalty led her here? Weeks passed like heavy clouds. Adana could not sleep. She could not eat. The pain of Chioma's betrayal consumed her like fire. She replayed every moment in her mind, searching for where she went wrong. She had only tried to help. She had only been loyal. But loyalty, she was learning, could be a knife that cuts the hand holding it. One afternoon, as she swept the office floors, her phone buzzed. It was a message from an unknown number. I know what Chioma did to you. We need to talk. Adana's heart raced. Who was this? She replied cautiously. Who are you? The response came quickly. Meet me at the cafe near your workplace tomorrow at 5 p.m. Come alone. That night, Adana barely slept. Her mind filled with questions and fears. Should she go? Was this a trap? But curiosity and heart pushed her forward. The next evening, she sat at the cafe, her hands trembling around a cup of cold tea. A woman walked in, and Adana gasped. It was Ngozi, the woman from the hotel. Ngozi sat down calmly, her eyes sad but steady. I am not your enemy, she began. And Chioma is not your friend. Adana's mouth fell open. What are you talking about? Ngozi leaned forward, her voice quiet but firm. Chioma knew about me long before she called you. She has known for months. Adana shook her head, refusing to believe. No. She was crying. She was heartbroken. Ngozi smiled bitterly. She was acting. Chioma wanted you to do her dirty work so she could keep her hands clean. She used you, Adana. The words felt like stones thrown at Adana's chest. Why would she do that? Ngozi sighed. Because Chioma is not who you think she is. She enjoys playing games with people. She wanted to punish her husband without looking like the bad wife. So she used you as her weapon. Adana sat frozen, her mind spinning. How do you know all this? Ngozi pulled out her phone and showed Adana screenshots of messages between Chioma and Mr. Emeka. In them, Chioma laughed about how Adana was doing exactly what she wanted. She called you her loyal dog, Ngozi said softly. The words shattered Adana's heart into 1,000 pieces. She felt sick. She felt used. She felt like a fool. Ngozi reached across the table and touched her hand gently. I am sorry. You deserve to know the truth. Adana stumbled out of the cafe like a woman drunk on sorrow. The streets bled around her. People walked past, but she saw none of them. All she could hear were Chioma's words echoing in her mind, loyal dog. She had given everything to that friendship, her time, her energy, her heart. And for what? To be mocked and discarded. When she reached her small room, she collapsed on her bed and cried until no more tears would come. But as the night deepened, something inside her began to change. The sadness hardened into something else. Anger. Cold, burning anger. How dare Chioma use her like this? How dare she throw her away like trash? Adana sat up, her eyes red but determined. She would not let this go. She would not be treated like a fool. If Chioma wanted to play games, then Adana would show her that even a cleaner could fight back. But she needed a plan. She needed to be smart. She lay awake all night, thinking, calculating, plotting. By morning, she knew exactly what she would do. Chioma had made one terrible mistake. She had underestimated the woman she betrayed. And that mistake, my people, would cost her everything. Adana began her revenge quietly, like a snake moving through grass. She knew Chioma's secrets because they had shared everything for years. She knew about Chioma's fake university certificate, the one she used to impress her husband's family. She knew about the money Chioma stole from her husband's business account to buy her expensive bags. She knew about Chioma's affair with the family driver 3 years ago. All these secrets had been shared in confidence, in friendship. But friendship was dead now. Adana started small. She created a fake social media account and began posting hints about Chioma's lies. Nothing direct, nothing that could be traced back, just enough to plant seeds of doubt. She posted, some Lagos wives live fake lives. Fake certificates, fake loyalty, fake everything. People began to talk. Whispers spread through their community like wildfire. Then Adana went further. She printed copies of Chioma's fake certificate and mailed them anonymously to Mr. Emeka's business partners. She sent screenshots of Chioma's financial theft to the accountant at the filling stations. She made sure every piece of evidence landed in the right hands. Within 2 weeks, Chioma's perfect life began to crack. Mr. Emeka confronted her about the certificate. The accountant discovered the missing money. Chioma's world started crumbling, and she had no idea who was destroying it. Chioma became desperate. She called everyone she knew, trying to find out who was exposing her secrets. She cried to her family. She begged her husband for forgiveness. But the more she tried to fix things, the worse they became. One evening, she called Adana. Her voice was small, broken. Adana, please. I need your help. Someone is destroying my life. Adana held the phone, her heart pounding. Part of her wanted to scream the truth, to tell Chioma how it felt to be betrayed. But she kept her voice calm, almost kind. What is happening? She asked innocently. Chioma sobbed as she explained everything, the exposed secrets, the angry husband, the ruined reputation. I don't know who hates me this much, Chioma cried. Please, you are my only true friend. Help me find out who is doing this. Adana closed her eyes, savoring the irony. The woman who had called her a loyal dog was now begging that same dog for help. I will try, Adana said softly. But Chioma, sometimes our past catches up with us. Sometimes we hurt people, and the pain comes back. There was silence on the other end. Then Chioma whispered, What do you mean? Adana smiled in the darkness. Nothing. I will call you tomorrow. She hung up, feeling powerful for the first time in months. But revenge, my people, is like poison. It tastes sweet at first, but eventually, it poisons the one who drinks it. Adana continued her attacks on Chioma, each one more calculated than the last. She sent anonymous messages to Chioma's church, revealing her affair with the driver. She contacted Chioma's mother-in-law, sharing evidence of the stolen money. Chioma's life became a living nightmare. Her husband moved out. Her friends abandoned her. Her reputation in the community was destroyed. Adana watched it all from a distance, feeling satisfied. But something strange began happening. Adana started having dreams. Dark, twisted dreams where Chioma's face haunted her. In the dreams, Chioma would ask, Why did you become like me? Why did you turn into the monster you hated? Adana would wake up sweating, her heart racing. During the day, she found it harder to concentrate. The satisfaction she once felt was fading, replaced by a hollow emptiness. She looked at herself in the mirror and barely recognized the woman staring back. Her eyes had grown cold. Her smile had disappeared. She had become consumed by revenge, and in destroying Chioma, she was destroying herself. One night, sitting alone in her room, Adana whispered to the darkness, What have I done? But the damage was already spreading, and there was no turning back. News reached Adana that changed everything. Chioma had been hospitalized. The stress and shame had become too much. She had collapsed at home, and now she lay in a hospital bed, weak and broken. Adana's first reaction was satisfaction. Good, she thought. She deserves it. But as hours passed, that satisfaction turned into something else. Guilt. Heavy, suffocating guilt. She tried to push it away, reminding herself of everything Chioma had done. The betrayal. The mockery. The cruelty. But the guilt remained, growing stronger. That evening, Adana found herself standing outside the hospital. She did not plan to go there. Her feet had carried her without permission. She stood in the parking lot, staring at the building, her heart torn in two directions. Part of her wanted to walk away, to let Chioma suffer as she had suffered. But another part, a quieter part, whispered that this had gone too far. Finally, she walked inside. She climbed the stairs slowly, each step heavier than the last. When she reached Chioma's room, she stood at the door, frozen. Through the small window, she could see Chioma lying on the bed, thin and pale, like a shadow of the woman she once was. Adana's eyes filled with tears. What had she done? What had they done to each other? Adana pushed the door open quietly. Chioma's eyes were closed, her breathing shallow. For a long moment, Adana just stood there, watching her former friend sleep. She looked so small, so fragile. Nothing like the powerful woman who had once dominated every room. Adana moved closer, her heart pounding. She sat on the chair beside the bed, her hands trembling. "Chioma," she whispered. Chioma's eyes fluttered open. When she saw Adana, confusion crossed her face, followed by something that looked like hope. "Adana." Her voice was barely audible. "You came." Adana nodded, unable to speak. Chioma's eyes filled with tears. "I am so sorry," she whispered. "For everything. For using you. For calling you names. For throwing you away when you were only trying to help me." The apology hung in the air between them. Adana wanted to feel vindicated, but instead, she felt only sadness. "I know everything was you," Chioma continued weakly. "Ngozi told me. She visited me yesterday and explained how you two talked." Adana's breath caught. Chioma knew. "I deserved it," Chioma said, tears rolling down her cheeks. "I deserved every bit of pain you gave me. But Adana, look at us now. Look at what we have become. We destroyed each other." Adana's own tears began to fall. Chioma was right. They had both lost everything. Chioma's hand reached out weakly, and Adana took it. They sat like that for a long time, two broken women holding onto each other. "I was jealous of you," Chioma finally said. "Of me?" Adana asked, shocked. "You had everything. Money, status, respect." Chioma shook her head. "But you had something I never had. You had peace. You had genuine love in your heart. I watched you care for me so deeply, and it made me feel small. So I hurt you because hurting others made me feel powerful." Adana listened, her heart breaking all over again. "And I destroyed you because I wanted you to feel the pain you gave me," Adana confessed. "But revenge did not heal me. It only made me empty." They both cried then, not the angry tears of enemies, but the sad tears of two friends who had lost their way. "Can we ever go back?" Chioma asked. Adana squeezed her hand gently. "No. We cannot go back. But maybe we can find a way forward. A different way." Chioma nodded weakly. "I would like that. But first, I need to make things right. I need to confess everything to my husband and face the consequences of my lies." Adana smiled through her tears. "And I need to stop carrying this anger. It is killing me too." Over the following weeks, both women began the slow journey of healing. Chioma confessed everything to Mr. Emeka, the fake certificate, the stolen money, the affair. He was furious and heartbroken, but he also saw his wife's genuine remorse. He did not forgive her immediately, but he agreed to marriage counseling. Adana, on the other hand, sought help from her pastor. She confessed her revenge and the darkness it had brought into her life. The pastor listened without judgment and told her, "Forgiveness is not for the other person. It is for you. Holding on to anger is like drinking poison and expecting the other person to die." Those words struck Adana deeply. She realized she had been poisoning herself for months. Slowly, she began to let go. She deleted the fake social media accounts. She stopped plotting and scheming. She focused on rebuilding her own life, her own peace. Chioma and Adana did not return to their old friendship. Too much had broken between them. But they maintained a respectful distance, checking on each other occasionally, like two soldiers who survived the same war. One afternoon, they met for tea at a quiet cafe. It was awkward. Tea first, but gradually, they began to talk. Not like before, but like two people learning to be honest for the first time. "I learned something terrible," Chioma said, stirring her tea slowly. "I learned that pride makes you do evil things. I was so proud of my life, my marriage, my status. When my husband cheated, I felt my pride was wounded. So I used you to protect it. Adana nodded. And I learned that loyalty without wisdom is dangerous. I would have done anything for you, even things that hurt me. I did not protect myself because I thought that is what friendship meant. Chioma looked at her sadly. We both learned the hard way. Yes, Adana agreed. But at least we learned. They sat in silence for a moment, each lost in thought. Then Chioma spoke again. Do you think we will ever truly forgive each other? Adana considered the question carefully. I think forgiveness is not one big moment. It is small choices we make every day. Choosing not to remember the hurt. Choosing not to punish each other again. Choosing to wish each other well. Chioma smiled faintly. That sounds difficult. It is, Adana said. But staying angry was more difficult. It consumed everything. As they parted ways that afternoon, both women felt something they had not felt in months, lightness. The heavy burden they had been carrying was beginning to lift, one small step at a time. But healing is never a straight path, my people. It twists and turns like a river. Just when Adana thought she was finding peace, she received devastating news. Her mother had fallen ill in the village and needed expensive medical treatment. Adana had no money. Her salary barely covered her rent and food. In desperation, she thought of Chioma. Her old friend had money. Before everything fell apart, Chioma would have helped without hesitation. But could she ask now? After everything that happened. Adana wrestled with her pride for days. Finally, swallowing her shame, she called Chioma. I need help, she said simply, and explained about her mother. There was silence on the other end. Adana's heart sank. She had been foolish to think Chioma would help her now. But then Chioma spoke. How much do you need? Adana told her, expecting a refusal. Instead, Chioma said, I will send it today. Adana was shocked. You will? Yes, Chioma said quietly. You were there for me when I needed you, even when I did not deserve it. Now I will be there for you. When the money arrived, Adana cried. Not tears of sadness, but tears of something she had lost and was now finding again, hope. Maybe, just maybe, broken things could be mended after all. Adana's mother survived the treatment and recovered slowly. When Adana returned to Lagos, she visited Chioma to thank her properly. She found her former friend looking different, thinner, quieter, but somehow more at peace. How is your mother? Chioma asked. She is recovering well, thanks to you, Adana said, her voice thick with emotion. I cannot repay you. Chioma shook her head. You do not need to. Consider it my way of saying sorry for everything. They sat together in Chioma's living room, which looked less grand than before. Mr. Emeka had downsized their lifestyle as part of rebuilding trust. The mansion was sold, and they now lived in a smaller, simpler house. Do you regret it? Adana asked carefully. The money, the big house, the status. Chioma thought for a moment. At first, yes. I felt like I lost everything. But now I realize I only lost the fake things. The things that made me proud and cruel. What I am building now with my husband is real, even though it is harder. Adana understood. She too had lost things, her blind loyalty, her naive trust, her old identity. But she was building something new as well. Something stronger. We are both different people now, Adana observed. Chioma nodded. Yes. And maybe that is not a bad thing. Months turned into a year. Adana and Chioma's relationship remained cautious but genuine. They were no longer best friends, but they were no longer enemies either. They had become something new, two women who understood each other's darkness and chose grace anyway. One day, Chioma called Adana with surprising news. "I am pregnant," she said, her voice filled with joy and fear. "After everything, God blessed us with a child." Adana felt genuine happiness for her. "That is wonderful, Chioma. Truly wonderful. I want you to be the child's godmother," Chioma said softly. Adana was stunned. "Are you sure?" "Yes. Because I want my child to learn from both of us. To learn what true loyalty means, and what fake friendship looks like. I want my child to know that people can hurt each other terribly and still find their way back to grace." Adana accepted, tears streaming down her face. When Chioma's daughter was born, Adana held the tiny baby in her arms and made a silent promise. She would teach this child about real friendship, the kind built on honesty, boundaries, and genuine love. Not the toxic loyalty that demands everything and gives nothing back. Not the pride that uses people as weapons. But the kind of friendship that tells the truth, even when it hurts. As the baby grew, Adana watched Chioma transform into a devoted mother. She saw her former friend laugh again, not the fake laugh of pretense, but genuine joy. And Chioma watched Adana grow too, more confident, more careful with her trust, but also more open to real connection. One afternoon, as they sat in the park watching the baby play, Chioma said something that surprised Adana. "I think our falling apart was necessary." Adana turned to her. "What do you mean?" "We were not really friends before. We were playing roles. I was the rich helper, and you were the grateful receiver. That is not friendship. That is performance." Adana considered this. Chioma was right. Their old friendship had been unbalanced, built on unequal ground. "And now?" Adana asked. "Now we are equals," Chioma said. "Both broken. Both healing. Both learning. That is real friendship." Adana smiled. "So the pain was worth it." Chioma looked at her daughter, then back at Adana. "The pain was terrible. But what came after, the truth, the growth, the genuine connection, yes, that part is worth it." They sat in comfortable silence, two women who had journeyed through fire and emerged on the other side, scarred but stronger. The baby laughed, chasing a butterfly, unaware of the complicated story that had brought her godmother into her life. But life, my people, has a way of testing us again and again. Just when Adana thought she had learned all her lessons, another challenge arrived. Her former co-worker, a woman named Blessing, came to her with a familiar story. "My best friend's husband is cheating," Blessing said. "I have proof. Should I tell her?" Adana's blood ran cold. She saw herself in Blessing's eager eyes, the desire to help, the certainty of righteousness, the blind loyalty. "Wait," Adana said carefully. "Before you do anything, let me ask you some questions." She sat Blessing down and shared her story. Everything. The investigation, the betrayal, the revenge, the destruction. Blessing listened with wide eyes. "So what should I do?" she asked when Adana finished. "Ask yourself why you want to tell her," Adana said. "Is it to help her, or to feel important? Is she asking for your help, or are you inserting yourself into her marriage?" Blessing thought hard. I think I wanted to feel needed." Adana nodded. "That is honest. Here is what I learned: real friendship is not about fighting someone's battles for them. It is about being there when they need you, with wisdom, not just blind action. Blessing thanked her and left, thoughtful. Adana felt a deep satisfaction. She had stopped someone from making her same mistakes. Her pain was becoming purpose. Adana began sharing her story more openly. She spoke at her church women's fellowship, warning about toxic loyalty and dangerous pride. Women listened with tears in their eyes, many seeing themselves in her words. We think loyalty means doing anything for someone, Adana would say. But real loyalty means being honest, setting boundaries, and protecting yourself while loving others. Her message spread. Other women invited her to speak at their groups. Slowly, Adana discovered a new calling. She started a small support group for women struggling with difficult friendships. They met every Saturday, sharing stories, learning boundaries, and healing together. Chioma sometimes attended, sharing her side of the story. Together, they showed that reconciliation was possible, but it required truth, humility, and hard work from both sides. One woman in the group said, "You two give me hope. If you can move past what you did to each other, maybe I can forgive my sister." Adana and Chioma exchanged glances. Their pain was helping others. Their mistakes were becoming lessons. The agony of their loyalty, and the destruction it caused, was now a light for others walking similar dark paths. This, Adana realized, was the gift hidden in their tragedy. Their suffering had meaning. Their story had purpose. And that made the journey, as painful as it was, somehow worthwhile. Years passed. Adana eventually left her cleaning job and started a small business selling clothes. It was not much, but it was hers. She stood on her own feet, depending on no one. Chioma's marriage survived but changed. Mr. Emeka learned to trust again, and Chioma learned to be truthful. Their daughter grew into a smart, kind child who knew both Adana and her mother as the friendship warriors, a title Chioma had given them jokingly. One evening, as Adana closed her shop, she saw a young woman standing outside, crying. "Are you Adana?" the woman asked. "The one who speaks about toxic friendships." Adana nodded. "My best friend is destroying my life, but I feel guilty for wanting to walk away," the woman sobbed. Adana put her arm around her. "Let me tell you something. Loyalty is beautiful, but it should never cost you your peace, your truth, or your dignity." She invited the woman inside, made her tea, and listened to her story. As the woman talked, Adana saw her younger self, confused, hurting, trapped in a loyalty that was killing her. "You are not a bad friend for protecting yourself," Adana said gently. "You are a wise woman for recognizing poison before you drink it all." The woman left that night with lighter shoulders and clearer eyes. Adana locked her shop, feeling grateful. She had become the person she needed when she was broken. My people, as this story comes to its end, let me share what happened to all those involved. Ngozi, the woman caught in the affair, eventually left Lagos and started fresh in another city. She had learned her lesson about loving married men. Mr. Emeka became a better husband, having nearly lost everything. He valued his family more and worked on his character. Chioma grew into a woman of depth and integrity. She raised her daughter with honesty, teaching her that pride destroys and humility builds. She and Adana maintained their careful friendship, never quite returning to what they were, but creating something new and healthier. Adana became known in her community as a wise counselor for women. Her shop became a safe space where women shared their struggles and found guidance. She never married, But she was not lonely. She had genuine friendships now, built on truth and mutual respect. Both women often reflected on their journey. They agreed on one thing: the pain was terrible, but the lessons were priceless. They learned that loyalty without wisdom is bondage. That friendship without boundaries is dangerous. That pride will always lead to a fall. And that revenge, no matter how satisfying in the moment, poisons the soul. Most importantly, they learned that broken things can heal, not back to what they were, but into something different, something stronger. So my people, what is the lesson of this story? It is this: loyalty is not blind obedience. Friendship is not performance. And grace is not weakness. Adana's mistake was loving without protecting herself. Chioma's mistake was using love as a weapon. Both paid terrible prices. But they also found redemption, not in returning to the past, but in building a wiser future. If you are in a friendship that demands everything and gives nothing, walk away. If you are the friend using others for your battles, stop. If you are drowning in revenge, remember that you are only drinking poison meant for another. True friendship is a garden that needs two gardeners. If only one person is planting while the other destroys, nothing will grow. Protect your heart, but keep it soft. Set your boundaries, but remain kind. And remember that sometimes the deepest loyalty is knowing when to step back. Adana and Chioma's story is not just their story. It is the story of many women who love too much, trust too quickly, and hurt too deeply. May we all learn from their agony. May we all find their grace. And may we all remember that the greatest loyalty we owe is to ourselves, to our peace, our truth, and our dignity. This is how the story ends, but the lessons continue forever. Thank you for listening, my people. Stay blessed, stay wise, and guard your heart with wisdom.